Good evening, everybody. My name is Shawn Kelly, and welcome to my show Into the Night. And I move around a lot, so here's the deal. There's going to be a time when I'm going to be a ghost. So when I'm moving around because of my green screen or whatever it's called. So how was everybody's week? I hope you learned something from last week. It was a pretty good show. And I'm really looking forward to tonight. I met this gentleman. Through another mutual friend of ours, and he sent me a friend request, and I'm thinking, this should be an interesting show. And I just talked to him a little bit, and I said, you know what? The light bulb went off in my head, and I said, well, I'd like to get him on my show tonight, see what he's all about. So without ado, I want you to meet my friend Anthony, the Wraith Prince. Is it Ceballos?
Yeah, the Wraith Prince.
I like that.
Actually, Matt Barron gave me that on. He made an intro for me, and he put the Wraith Prince. I said, yeah, you know what? That sounds kind of catchy, so I'll just stay with it.
Yeah, Matt did mine too. So he's a good dude. He's a real good dude.
Yeah.
But a little bit of bio on Anthony here. His team is the TexasWraith Hunters from Odessa, Texas. And he also has a paranormal podcast called Wraith World Podcast. He's been around the paranormal for over 40 years and had his first experience when he was 5 years old. I have my abilities that I use more than equipment, and the rest is history. Good evening there, Anthony. How are you tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Thank you for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell my viewers, please.
Well, about myself, I'll try to do the short version because, like I said, I had my first experience when I was 5. And that was really when I was I was leaning back on my chair, when I was a kid, with 5 years old. And what ended up happening is I still remember that. I felt like somebody just pushed me. And it's weird because it's been so long ago, Mm-hmm. But I felt like something pushed me, and when I fell back, I hit the corner of the bed, right in the soft part on the back of your neck.
Right.
And of course, I from that point I don't remember, but I know that my grandmother had told me because they took me to the hospital, and I still have the scar back there, but I died for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I think I was talking about that on another podcast, and they were saying maybe that has something to do, because after that I started to see like shadow people. I started to see just some ugly beings, and from that point on, it just kept on growing and growing. So we're trying to, they were just trying to get maybe that's what impacted that.
I can relate to you. In 1983, I was taking a drug called Antabuse, and that was to wean me off alcohol. And I had it in my system for a year. And one day I got depressed and I drank a whole fifth of Jack Daniels.
Wow.
And I died. Okay. And when I came back, I started to see things, hear things, and feel things that weren't there,
Yeah.
And so I totally understand what you're going through. I really believe that happens whenever you have a tragic experience in your life. It was always taught to me that once this tragic thing happens, your old spirit leaves and a new one pops in. Have you ever heard of that?
I have.
Okay. So what got you into the paranormal? Tell me about your group.
Well, my group, like I said, after that happened, and I believe that my ability started to grow because I never had anyone to tell me um, that it wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
You know how usually when the kids, have imaginary friends, and the parents tell them, "Oh, it's not real, it's not real." So that I believe that starts to shut them down, and they'll put it away, and then they'll forget about it, and then so it never develops. So with
Mm-hmm.
me, through all the years, it just kept on developing and developing. Even it just never stopped, and so I kept growing with it, and it kept getting stronger and stronger. So that's the reason why. I mean, I have equipment, I have the bells and whistles, but I really don't use it a lot of them myself.
Okay.
With me, I go in and either I can see it or feel it if I touch something, or if I already see it before I get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my team consists of there's four of us and his family. So one of them is my son, which is my co-founder, and then the other one is his cousin, so he's family, and then I have a friend, but he's just the same thing, just his family that's been with us, and they all have their abilities also,
Okay.
and so that's what makes it pretty cool because we all have it, and so we just sometimes I get some things, or I can rely on the other one. Somebody's going to get something, so we collaborate together on it.
Right. Now, when you walk into an investigation, first question: do you do a lot of private residences, or do you go to historical places?
For me, really, it's been outside. Like
Okay.
my thing is the forest, and
Ooh.
that's one of the biggest ones. Is I was on a podcast not too long ago and I started talking about that and bringing it up, and I try not to go too deep into it because that podcast ended up lasting 5 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh my God. No, I only get an hour here, buddy.
Yeah, and that was just on the surface of it, because we have gotten and experienced so many things in that forest that I mean it's just wild. And so my thing really, even when I was younger, I've always liked the outdoors. My
Mhm.
my grandmother, growing up with her, she would love to visit cemeteries.
Right.
So by the time I was 8 years old, I mean I was pretty much already going moving on this. So my youth was a lot in the cemeteries,
Hmm.
and since I was the only child, I was just my friends were the people in the cemeteries,
Yeah.
and so it's pretty
Yeah.
wild.
That no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. I'm because I believe you. I know what you mean.
So then, um, so it just like I said, it started just to develop from there, and then I forgot what did you just ask me? We were laughing in my head.
Oh, okay. What I just asked you, I just said no. I wasn't laughing at you. I kind of chuckled because I know how you feel. And so far in this conversation that we had just had for about 8 minutes, it seems like we could be brothers, dude.
Oh,
Honest to God.
yeah, the forest. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so I've always been an outdoors person. I've always liked the forests, or I don't do very many cemeteries anymore because I think I'm burnt out since I was 8 years old.
okay.
And but the forests is then that's the one that I'm more attracted to. We haven't done very many residentials, maybe other than abandoned houses or hotels, of that nature, but not residents. Because and that's only because I've only acquired my team 2.5 years ago,
Hmm.
and I don't feel that I know that I could do it, but my team is not up to yet to doing something like
Right.
that, and I'm not going to put them in that. And I've heard the horror stories. I got a friend of mine who does residentials. That's how he does. And the stories that he's told me about people, you have to know the people that when you go in, because you don't know if it's something that is either a mental case, something.
Hmm.
You don't know what you're gonna walk into. And he's told me some wild stories about people calling him and telling him to seeing things. They get there, and the person really just needs help. You know,
Right.
and so until I have that, we have done a residence not too long ago, in Mineola, Texas, and that's another one that stuck with me. And we're actually going to go do that one again here in March. And it was just one of those personal experiences. It just stayed with me.
Hmm.
and but the forest is the ones the outdoors is mainly the ones that we do.
Okay, when you go outdoors, are you looking for like fairies, gnomes, You know, I'm not laughing when I say leprechauns. You know, I believe in them,
Yeah.
but elementals. Is that what you kind of look for, or is there a place in the forest itself that there could have been a slaughter, or there were people who were settlers there? You
Wow,
know what I mean?
you're hitting it all on the nail because the forest that we go to is in San Antonio,
Okay.
and we've been to it 6 times. The very first time that we went, we actually weren't even looking to go do anything. I just had one camera, and like I said, my son, he's a music artist, so we had just done a show, and so when we were done with the show, we came outside, and I said, well, let's go find somewhere to go. You know, we're in San Antonio, let's go find a place. So I just Googled a place, and it came, and this urban legend came up, and it happened to be in a forest. So
Hmm.
we went to it, and we there's a bridge there, and that's where the urban legend is. But we passed the bridge, and we went into the forest. And in that forest, the very first time that we went in there, we had gotten so much experience in there that's the one that I was talking about. Is that because I believe that we crossed over into other dimensions,
Okay. No. Yeah. Okay.
and and because of the things that happened in there, and we did see a lot of I call them fireflies, but they lit up yellow, green, red, blue,
Hmm.
and they didn't fly. They kind of just they looked just like them, but they just kind of like floated around.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's how they are. Yeah.
and then there was a lady here the other day that she told me that those were fairies.
Hmm.
And but in that place there, we went. We had so many things happen, and I know that we crossed over into other places because when we came back out of that forest, we actually were lost. We were there for 6 hours, and I mean we lost track of time, and
Yeah.
also everything changed when we crossed over and we went into the forest off the trail, and then once we ended up coming back out, the whole forest changed. Like
Really?
the landmarks that were there, you know, because I'm a real good tracker, and
Hmm.
because I like that's why I like the forest. I mean, you know, so but everything had changed, kind of like they rearranged. It got rearranged,
Oh
and
wow.
and the first time that we went, ever since we came back, we never came back the same because um, uh, um, it's like we changed because
Okay.
nothing was. It looked the same, but it wasn't the same.
Hmm.
And then when we went back the second time, a couple of months later, I remembered that when we first went there, that there where the bridge is at, there's a river under there. It's the San Antonio Canal. The river was flowing from right to left the first time, and the second time we went, after we had came back out, you know, we came back out, came home, went back. I noticed something different that caught my eye, that the river was flowing from left to right.
Oh
So it's
wow.
going the opposite way. And I have that on video because I have my first video when we went in there where you can see the river going from right to left. But when
Hmm.
we came out of that forest, after we came out of that place that we were at, uh, everything changed. And
Okay.
even my wife had told me that we weren't the same. Something was different about us. We've been like that ever since, and we've gone
Hmm.
back 5 more times. And every time we've gone back, there's just so many things in there that um, it's different. It'll change. Equipment doesn't work in there either. None
Right.
of the equipment will work. It's more like an experience. And when I came back after the first time, I did the research on that land, and come to find out that when they were building the Applewhite Dam in San Antonio, they had found pottery back in 1981 that dated back 10,000 years, back to the indigenous
Wow.
people that lived there. And we hear drum beats, we hear women screaming and crying, and
Hmm.
I have all that on audio. That's the only thing that worked was my phone, on my recorder on my phone,
Hmm.
so I was able to capture all that. And so there's a but what you were saying about a slaughter was one of my members that I used to have. He's part Apache and part Cherokee. So when we were walking in there, he told me that his spirit wolf appeared to him, and it was actually protecting him and
Hmm.
protecting us the very first time. When we came back out after what happened in there, and I'm kind of just cutting it right now. I mean, I'm not even going into all the details because I don't have time. Uh, that he ended up just he didn't come back anymore. You know, he ended up leaving the group. You know, and because of what he experienced in there. And but about like a month later, he had told me that he was shown a vision that there was a shaman in there with the tribe, and the shaman is the one that's supposed to protect the tribe, you know, from with medicine and
Hmm.
magic, and that he wanted more power, so he sacrificed the whole tribe to whatever he sacrificed to receive that power.
Oh, wow.
So through all the times that we've been back, and in all the other audios that we've gotten from the drum beats, it started. And just the other night after that podcast, I was talking to another lady who she channels also, and she's also indigenous.
Hmm.
Because the very first time that we went in there, I had felt that we were dealing with a skinwalker,
Okay.
and that's what she ended up telling me also. You know, that without me saying anything to her, she actually channeled when I was talking to her and actually followed me in there the very first time.
Hmm.
And so right now, we're going back here pretty soon. It'll be our seventh time, and but I can see it now because when I was here, when we heard all the women crying and screaming in my head, I could see like in the old cowboy movies when the village would get attacked, where the
Hmm.
natives were at, and they would get slaughtered. That's what I could see we were hearing the yells and screams. I could see, and I was telling my son, I said, you know what I can see in my mind. I see like their whole village is being attacked and just being massacred.
Wow.
And but there is just so much in there. There's so much in there that we see, and and every time we go back, I mean, it's different. It's kind of like we come back out and everything's different. I mean, we've gotten lost in there, which is kind of impossible to get lost in a way because of the trail, but everything changes.
Hmm.
So it's a really interesting place.
What's the name of the forest, may I ask? Hi, Raymond. Thank you for coming on.
That forest is called the Medina Riverwalk or Riverway in San Antonio, Texas.
Medina.
Yeah.
Okay.
The urban legend is actually called the Donkey Lady Bridge. That's actually when, if you want to look it up, you'll
Oh, the
see the
Donkey
forest.
Lady Bridge. Okay.
Yeah.
I got 7 more years and I'm going to retire. And I got a truck. I'm getting a camper and I'm gone, dude. So maybe I'll be down there in Odessa, Texas, and we'll meet up and we'll go into that
Yeah.
woods.
Well, I'll be living in San Antonio because I'm moving there at the end of this year,
Ah, sweet.
specifically for that reason because I want to be near the forest. And of course, there's just so many other places, there's missions and everything that I've gotten spirits and priests,
Hmm.
that I've captured on pictures. But mainly that forest is something I have such a connection with it. Um, that I was even told not too long ago that I actually come from that place,
That's possible.
and
Possible.
so it's a lot of native, and I believe that I'm probably native also, and I think that's
Okay.
why I have the connection.
Do you, when you come out of the forest, when you go home, do you write down what you experience? Like maybe make it into some kind of a book or a story that you can share down the
No,
road with
no,
people?
everything's in my head. Like it's just I can't forget it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just so out there. I mean, it's just an experience that you just don't forget.
Now, when you're going through the forest, like all the different times, are there animals in there, or are there like deer and stuff like that?
Well,
Um,
they say there's pigs and I think some mountain lions or something, but we've never seen anything like that in there at
no.
night. Mm-mm.
Do you
You
go in
hear?
at night?
Yeah, we go in at night. We the first time we went in there, we went at night. I usually don't use flashlights. We carry them, but I like to go in the dark because I can see real good in the dark. and um, I mean that's it's just so many things that are in there. I mean, I don't even know where to start at. I mean, that you're gonna experience.
Hmm.
I mean, that place
Now,
really has got me for the last 2 years.
it looks like it has, but I would have to say, just be careful. You know what I mean? Because I know how a certain place. Now, there's a place up here in Pittsburgh. Um, it's called Blue Miss Road, and I'm like you. Okay, I'm attracted to that place, and that's where I go a lot, and that's where I take a lot of the new people that want to do some investigating. But it's just like I'm so drawn into that place, so I understand about the forest and stuff. And it is crazy because there's a lot of things that I go up there and I experience. So I definitely understand what you're talking about. But this forest is like really, really interesting. Now, when you go into the forest, do you still see the fairies?
It's a lot of people tell us that there are no fireflies in there. I mean, that's what we call them. That's what I call them.
Hmm.
But every time we go, they're always there and they'll follow you. There's a
Okay.
whistle. There's a whistle also that'll follow you, and I have that one on audio also. Um, it'll wherever you go, it'll follow you, and it's just a long whistle. It sounds kind of like a bird, but then it also sounds like a whistle. The ones you put in your little whistles, like Coach.
Right. Hmm.
But it's you can't really. It's neither one of them. You know, I had another person listen to it the other day on that podcast, and later on we talked about it, and I sent him the audio of it. He said, he goes, it sounds like it's an enchanting whistle, like it just lulls you, and that's what you feel like it just
Right.
draws you. Everything in there will draw you deeper into the forest. Even the fireflies, they'll it's like they call you and to go deeper in there. And I've taken other paranormal investigators in there, and I've showed them where you can see the land. And when I turn on my flashlight, you'll see the forest, and then when I turn it off, you'll see a plain, like there's nothing there.
Oh, wow.
The ground will glow. There's certain trails in there that glow. The rocks will glow. The the trees and the leaves will glow. There's the first time that we went in there, when we crossed, that's how I felt that we crossed over somewhere else, because when we did, to try to get back, I could see a wall that was shimmering, but it was transparent, and
Okay.
we couldn't go through it. That I literally had to crawl on the ground and find an opening to come back to the other side. And that's when we came back to the side. That's when everything had changed.
Okay. It seems like that you walk through Is it the same portal? They're called portals that you go through.
Right. And then when we came back, it took us 3 times, because every time we would come back, we could never find that one spot. And the second time we came back, uh, I went to Google on satellite, and they actually got a little golf cart. You know how Google takes pictures of the land or the streets.
Hmm.
Well, they actually took pictures in the trail, so I actually got to go into satellite and follow the trail that we went to, and I found the spot. So when we went back the third time, we went during the day, and even during the day, you'll see shadow people. You'll see them during, behind the trees. And
Hmm.
I actually found the spot where we crossed in, where the trees. There's a big tree there, and um, I ended up seeing a spiral symbol on one of the trees. And then come
Did
to find,
you did you look at what the spiral meant?
yeah, the spiral actually means a portal entrance. It's just the one
Okay.
that's going clockwise, because the one's going clockwise is an entrance, the one's going the other way is the exit.
Hmm.
And you could see it on the tree. And I took a picture of it, but I don't know what happened to it. It's like we had the second time we went in, we actually, this time we did have the cameras. Uh, Audio would just disappear off the camera, or certain scenes that we were shooting would just were gone. Like someone went and edited it before we even popped the SD card out. It's the equipment goes. It's like you can't rely on it in there. Nothing really
Right.
works in there.
So you're really not into the equipment, are you?
I mean, I am into the equipment, but the equipment that I like to use, and like we used it on this last house, is the one that requires no batteries.
Ah, the Ouija board.
Yeah, and
Okay, okay,
I've been using that since I was 17. I'm
okay.
55 now, so
No, you don't look 55, dude. You're lying. You're like
I
30.
just turned 55
No way, man. You look like you're 30. Come on, dude.
January
You
10th. Turned
you,
55, two
you got to
nickels.
get one of these, brother.
Oh, I
Wait
got
to
a
get
little
one of
bit.
these.
See.
Okay. So they got the gray going. So I look at Ouija boards a little bit different. Okay. Um, to me, a lot of them are not good, and that's my opinion. I'd have to get on your podcast to talk more about the Ouija board, but all I know is that if you know how to use it and you know what you're doing, then I guess it is a good tool to use. Do you understand what I mean there?
Right. I mean, I
Mhm.
had a debate. I actually got asked to come on another podcast, and they were wanted to debate the uses of the Ouija board. And I know they've heard me because I always pop out with it or something.
Mhm.
And to me, it's just another tool in my paranormal toolbox. And like
Right.
I said, I have the cool equipment and everything. The SP7, I can't get that thing to work for me, you know. So, but but to me, it's just another tool. It's got a bad rap because of Hollywood and people going in and already expecting something evil to come through it. So their intentions are already you're already manifesting your intentions to this
Right.
door that's going to open, and that's what's
Well,
going to come through.
any equipment that you use, it's you're actually talking. You're actually opening up the portal to the other world. But my friend Holly, she has a question for you. She wants to know: did you notice any time the differences?
Yes, when we were in the forest the first time, we lost track of time. Like I said, we were in there for 6 hours, and we felt like we were only in there like for 45 minutes. Yeah, at that, and we were lost. The trail changed. Everything changed. Once we crossed back over that barrier, everything changed. But you can
Hmm.
see the portals in there. I mean, if you can see them, some people can see them.
Right.
There's like, I mean, there's so many in there. We crossed over, I know, four different barriers. So yeah,
Wow.
the time was gone.
I don't know what have you experienced any skinwalkers, any Bigfoot, any cryptids? With all those portals in the woods, did you experience or have heard of any cryptids in the forest?
Well, the deal with that is that I've never been into that like that, or the UFOs or anything.
Hmm.
And the like I said, the first time was that whistle. Well, that whistle's there every time we go. Uh, it'll follow you. And then when I was looking on YouTube one day, and I just looked up Bigfoot whistle, and there's a video on there where there's a husband and wife. I think they're in Iowa or somewhere over there in the forest, and you hear the exact same whistle,
Hmm.
and they're starting to say too that it's following them. And I've heard it on another documentary too, where they were doing the Bigfoot exploration, which has nothing to do with paranormal, and they they actually had the recording of that whistle, which is the same exact whistle. That's when I started to put things together.
Hmm.
And then they said, but the second time that we went back, we actually met a gentleman in there, and I have that interview on YouTube that he was. We were actually there's a house in there. It's about 3 miles because we'll go about 3 miles to 4 miles inside the forest, and
Hmm.
so we ended up. He was walking towards us, and I stopped and I asked him, hey, do you know where that house is at? And he goes, yeah, it's about 3 miles down. He goes, I said, so I just asked him, I go, so have you experienced anything here since if you come regularly? He goes, well, actually, I have. And he starts talking about, he called it a stamina
A what?
a stamina.
Okay.
And I looked it up, and I can't really find a definition for it, but that's what he was calling it. But he's referring to a Bigfoot. And then do see the trees in there where they're broke, like you see in these other documentaries where they're broke. And he was showing us, and you can see it in that video. And so what I ended up finding out about him is that he goes in there, he makes offerings to the being that's in there. He takes wine and bread. So it's kind of ironic that I meet someone in there that just happened to be walking our way. I stop him and then just start asking him, because that's what we do. We're investigators. We're always asking questions.
Right.
And he ends up come to find out that he actually goes in there, and he goes into the forest, and he makes an offering to it. And what kind of started making me think that it was something, that type of being, is because he was actually in the Air Force and
Okay.
based there in San Antonio. So to me, it's kind of like, okay, I'm been watching all this stuff here, and it's kind of like anytime that the Bigfoot or any kind of UFO comes around, the government is always involved.
Right.
Either they'll close that land up and make it a federal land where nobody can go in anymore, or
Hmm.
they'll build some kind of base in there. But the government is always in there, especially the Air Force. And
Okay.
here you got a guy who's walking, and he makes offerings to something that's in there, and he's in the Air Force.
Oh wow.
So when I found that out, it's kind of like, because I ended up asking him. I said, "Hey, I'm going to ask you a question," because I was talking to him on the phone, and I said, "You carry that backpack? What do you carry in that backpack?" And he goes, "Well, kind of." And I said, "Okay, I'll tell you what I think. I said, do you do offerings in there?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "What do you? So do you carry something in your bag?" He goes, "I carry bread and I carry wine, and I go in and I make these offerings." He goes, "That's why it doesn't miss with me, but it misses with y'all because y'all don't come the way I do."
Right.
But the whole time he's an active Air Force um, personnel.
Wow.
So what is an active government person in the Air Force doing there, looking and making offerings to this? That's when I started to piece that together. And the thing is, San Antonio's so big, and there's so many paranormal groups, but there's very few that go into that forest. They only go to the bridge, to the urban legend part of it.
Right.
They don't go deep into the forest.
Oh wow. But may I make a suggestion to you? When you go in the next time, bring some tobacco
Oh, so
and bring
tobacco?
yeah, bring some tobacco.
I
And
think.
oranges or fruit, and you just like, okay, I am giving you this gift, like the wine and the bread, but I'm giving you this gift, and I can guarantee you, my friend, I can guarantee you that you would have a safe journey through that
Yeah.
forest. I guarantee it. As long as you make an offering for peace and show good intention to it, you're in like Flint, dude. I'm
Right.
telling you.
I did bring a feather back.
Okay. Is that eagle
No, it's
or
actually, we,
turkey?
we found out that it was an owl, and this feather was placed the at the same spot where I stood after I had crossed over that barrier.
Okay.
And when I picked it up, even in the forest, it actually picks up my arm. Like
Okay.
you can feel the energy, and it still does. And
Hmm.
and so I brought this back from that other side.
Have you
Things are still
noticed?
not things are still not the same. I mean, it's never been the same with us, with all four of us, especially
Right.
me and my son, because we're the ones who crossed over so many times.
Hmm. Have you noticed the water owls hanging around you?
Not here in Odessa. We don't have anything like that. All we got
No,
is
down
dirt.
in San Antonio.
In San Antonio, it's also said that there's no owls, but yet you can
Really?
hear them in there.
Wow. This is pretty interesting. Oh, wow.
I told you it'll go 5 hours, and I'm trying to skip around because there's still five more times that we've gone.
Well, you know what, dude? Um, no, 7 years. I'll come down to San Antonio and we'll go through that forest. All right. That
Okay.
sounds like really interesting. So besides the forest, did you ever get to go to the Alamo to investigate? Do they allow that? Is there any other?
You can go to the Alamo, but just because I stay away from the real popular ones like that.
Okay.
There is the Menger Hotel, which is really it is haunted, and I
Hmm.
mean that was known. There's the Emily Morgan. We've gone to the missions, and at the missions, the Spanish missions, at the San Juan mission, we I caught one of my best photos on my phone of three monks,
Oh wow.
and you can see them. We saw them actually with their own eyes. We were walking, and of course it was at night, and uh, so I was actually asking for prayer. I was because they were buried there, and so I started asking. I need prayer. I need a priest. I need a prayer.
Hmm.
And we were just walking, and the next thing you know, it was just me and my son, and we both looked up. And when we both looked up, we just saw them standing right there, three of them. And I had my
Hmm.
phone in my hand, so I just popped off three shots, and I mean, I got them. I mean, they're that's one of my best pictures of the spirits. You can see them.
Right. Now, whenever you go to the missions, do you feel safe when you go in there?
Yeah, I feel safe. I feel safe at the forest. That one actually, we when we first went, there was a lady, her husband, her and their nephew, and one of their friends, and they seen that we were going to go in. They came up to us and asked us, "Hey, do y'all hunt ghosts?" And I said, "Well, yeah, kind of." So he goes, "Do you mind if we go in with y'all?" And I said, "That's fine. I mean, So they went in with us, and she almost lost her mind in there.
Really?
Her husband, and the nephew. When you heard the owls in there, they started mocking the owls, and I don't know what happened to them, but they ended up getting. They were real talking, they were laughing, whatever, and then all of a sudden, when she started to feel like there was something was surrounding us, she started to get really out of it. I mean, really, really bad.
Hmm.
And so that I just told her, I says, I need to get you out because you're fixing to pass out or have a heart attack or something. And let me go get your husband. When I went to go get her husband and her nephew, they were squatting down and they were just frozen. And I was telling him, I said, hey man, you need to come get your wife because she's fixing to lose it bad. You need to take her, get her out. I mean, it's pitch black in there, and and
Hmm.
and but they were motionless. I don't know what happened to them, but they were just sitting there. And their other friend ended up going inside the forest, and he came back out, and he was growling when he was coming back out.
Really?
So, but the whole time they were in there, despite all these experiences that we've had, I have really felt safe in there.
Hmm.
I mean, actually, like I've said it to my members, I feel like I want to go back and just go to sleep in
Oh, that would be
there.
that that would be cool. You believe in animal totems, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Do you have a wolf?
I have a panther.
You have a panther. I got a wolf. Do you ever feel the panther with you when you walk into the forest?
Um, I don't because I don't call on it.
Right.
But my other friend, my other member, he did. He called on his wolf, and he had his wolf with him.
Hmm. No, I am a firm believer in animal totems. I got a wolf and I got a red-tailed hawk. That's what I got. And so that's pretty. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying hearing the stories that come from the forest.
But that
Uh,
one, like I said, the forest and the missions are one. But you had to ask me on another experience, and that has to do with the Ouija board because we went to a house in Mineola, Texas, back in September. It's a two-story house. It's a very old house. It's actually a landmark now, and that house has 26 spirits in it. The people still
oh,
live in it,
right.
and that's where we use the Ouija board because that also used to be a brothel back in the day, and
Okay.
before that it's where the prisoners would go and they would work them.
Hmm.
And so the one that was in charge would beat him and everything. So he's still supposed to be there, but the people still live in that house and they have relationships with all these spirits, and they're okay with them. I mean,
Okay.
they're the ones that like living with the spirits.
Okay. That's
But
pretty cool.
when we went there, and they have events at that place, but in the attic they kind of turn it into, I would say, kind of like a psychomantium, but because it's
Okay.
got different areas where they allow people to go in and they do different things in the different areas. So there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of conjuring, whatever people are doing in there. And when we
Mm.
went, and we went up in the attic, we my other friend, he channeled through the Ouija board, and we ended up getting four girls that were coming through. And the whole
Okay.
time, a lot of people were falling and tripping. And even when I was coming down the stairs, and those stairs are the real old style, real steep stairs. They're not like
Right.
today's where they're nice, and these are almost straight down wooden stairs. And I
Hmm.
remember I made a joke because it's when I was a kid, I used to when you watch the movies and the lady's on top of the stairs and she falls down and breaks her neck, or they're usually dead in the movies when they land on the ground. It's like, man, how come they're always dying on the stairs? Well, I know now. I know why, because those stairs ain't no joke. Those
Right.
old stairs, and because when I was walking back down those stairs, I felt something push me again, and but a lot of people were having experiences with trips and falls. But the girl that was channeling through my friend, she was saying that her parents had left them there when they were little, because back in
Hmm.
the day, when the parents couldn't take care of their kids or whatever, they would just trade them off or sell them.
Oh
And
wow.
so they left this girl because she kept saying my parents left me here and they lied to me and they lied to me. They told me that this was a friend and they lied to me. And there was four other girls, but there was one spirit that would not let them leave or let them talk. And
Hmm.
he knocked over my equipment. He knocked over my cameras, my tripod. I mean, we had that kind of poltergeist kind of thing where physically this my stuff was being knocked down.
Right.
And when he was channeling the girl, she was saying that when they would get pregnant, that he would push them down the stairs,
Really.
so they would have miscarriages, because if they were pregnant, well, they weren't any good to them.
Right.
And so that started to make sense, because afterwards we found out that a lot of people were tripping and falling, and even I got pushed. My other partner, he got pushed too, and so the spirit would just go around pushing people, just like
Right.
he did when they were alive. But we couldn't get them to cross over because the spirit would come and stop them from leaving.
Oh.
So to me, it's kind of like, here's these four girls, and in life they were being tormented and having to live this type of life, and wishing that they would just pass on and just die. And
Right.
here they did pass on, and now they're still living in that same hell, even in the
Wow.
afterlife.
Hmm.
So this man had him prisoner in living, and now he still has him prisoner after death. So that
He's
one really
he
stayed
got to
with me.
go. He got
That
to go.
Yeah, that one really stayed with me. But you see, that was channeled through the Ouija board,
Right.
and we
Okay.
didn't have. And I have this one. I have a lot of things in here, and I have, I've only had two bad experiences, and that was only when I was 18.
Okay.
And other than that, I mean, like I've said, um, it's just one part of my tools. I know a lot of people have a lot of bad things, but they're always. I mean, I think they just come at it the wrong way. They're always coming with the wrong intention. They're waiting to see demon Satan 666 come out of it. Well, that's what you're gonna get. You
Yeah.
know. And actually, I was on another podcast where another gentleman brought up this. He goes, "Well, I don't think it's real, and I don't think that it really works or anything." I said, "Well," I said, "Look at it this way. What if a person put a shotgun in their mouth and blew their head off when they were alive?
Yeah.
Maybe, how do we know that in the afterlife, maybe they don't have a head or they don't have a face or a mouth?
Right.
Because we have seen spirits with no heads, right? And
Right.
or people
Yeah.
say no legs, no heads, or no arms. Okay,
Hmm.
how do we know that because you did this in life, now you're like this in the afterlife? You can't talk, but you can move this. You can't use it as talk through that or to a portal or anything else, but maybe you can move this.
Right.
So that's where that comes into play. So it's not the only thing I use, but it's one of the main things that I use. If it
Hmm.
if it happens to be working that night like that.
Now, if someone would come up to you and say, Anthony, I would like to learn how to investigate. Um, what advice would you give a new person in this field?
I would actually just direct them to be sure you got someone that you can connect with that's been doing this for a while.
Hmm.
And then what are your intentions and what are your goals out of it? I mean, what are
Right.
you doing? I mean, do you want to do this just on, when you have time to do it? Are you looking for a scare factor, spooky places like that? Or do you really want to go in and investigate this and find out to do the work of the history, the research, you know, because anybody can go to a cemetery and get a spooky experience or to a
Hmm.
house, but do you want to go deeper and do the work that it's going to take to sit out in front of the computer and research this and look
Right.
things up, you know? So there's different types, but if
Hmm.
they're looking just for a spooky thing, I always tell people stick to the entertainment haunted houses like in that
Okay.
forest, there's so many people that go there, and you'll see them there at night. And I always, when I tell them, hey, there's ghosts in there, and they'll say, okay, yeah, sure, we'll find out. And but there's some that I have told. I says, you know what, this is not a place for y'all really to be at. If you're looking to get scared, go to the entertainment haunted house because there's real stuff in here.
Hmm.
And so, but if they are serious about it, then I would suggest to them that I suggest to them is to find a team or find somebody who's experienced in this and have them as a mentor. Someone you can call up at any time because you decide to go somewhere at 3 in the morning. Then you need to call somebody that they're going to be there for you,
Right.
and before you start getting into anything deeper.
Now, some places down in San Antonio where you investigate, like cemeteries and stuff like that, do you have to get permission from the authorities, from the police departments down there?
On some of them you do. I mean, like the asylum that I want to go down there. It's the old juvenile, but it used to be an asylum back way back. That one you have to get permission to go in it. But I mean, that's up to you if
Right.
you wanna wait for that. But the cemeteries are open. The forest is open, and there's the cemetery. I mean, there's a whole lot of cemeteries over there.
Okay.
The missions you can go into them also.
Now I know that you're Spanish, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you go on investigations and just talk Spanish?
No, I speak English when I go there.
No, no, no. The reason why, because I always have this debate with investigators. It's like if I go to Germany, right?
Right.
Do I need a German interpreter in order to talk to the good spirits? Do you know what I
I,
mean, sir?
I've thought about that, and actually the other day I was thinking about that because we're fixing to go there pretty soon, and I said I'd like to go back to the missions. I said, well, they were they were Spanish, the priests were Spanish. So I said, so I wonder if I speak to them in Spanish, would I get uh, a more stronger reaction? you know. But I
Hmm.
have thought about that. It's kind of like when you see these ghost shows and they go to England or they go somewhere like you're saying, and so what do the people do if a person is Irish? I mean, or like you say German. So once you pass, do you automatically learn English?
Right. My my point
You know,
exactly.
so because on the ghost shows they'll go to these places and then they'll get these reactions or they get these EVPs and it's kind of like okay I know but this person lived back in the 1500s or whatever and they were like you say German or Italian and now all of a sudden you because they passed on they speak
Right.
English.
Yeah.
So where did they learn this? They got a ghost school or something. I don't know.
No, no, really, because I forget what show it was. Um, Ghost Hunters, World Travels, whatever. And when they were talking English and they were at some out of another country, I'm thinking, this ain't right, dude. And I had the exact same thought that you had. Um, did they learn this? Is there a ghost school? I
Right.
like that one. I like that one a
Well,
lot.
I've,
That's
I've thought
pretty
about
funny.
this. Like, how do they learn? I mean, how do they learn English?
Exactly. But we got about maybe 3 or 4 more minutes left.
Okay,
Any
10
final
minutes
any
for an hour.
final thought, brother? Any final thought?
I want to give a shout out there to Raymond Newsom from Newsom Paranormal. In the chat, I see his name up there.
Hmm.
And just wanted to bring up my podcast real quick. The podcast actually came out of Texas Wraith Hunters, and like I said, with Texas Wraith Hunters, when I established that group, I really didn't want to do it in a way, but I've been doing this. I've had so many experiences through all these years, but never had really any footage. And
Right.
then when the ghost show started coming out, and everything started to see this that other people actually did it. I didn't even know other people did it because for a time there we didn't talk about all this stuff.
Right.
And so I just decided, well, maybe it's time now that I actually need to start buying some equipment, some cameras, and start getting this evidence.
Right.
And so that's where Texas Race Hunters came from, and my team started. I put my team together, and we've done very well. And I believe it's because of our abilities. We
Right.
draw that.
Exactly. I agree with you.
We draw it, and then too that it's us four. So we combine. We're just like one generator. We just
Yeah.
draw them out. They're drawn to us.
Hmm.
And then my podcast actually came out of that, and I never thought about doing a podcast either. But that came out of um, just seeing after when I started my group and started getting to know so many people. I started seeing all the drama and everything. I've seen people actually wanting to fight over locations.
Yes.
I mean, literally, I mean, we own this. Like, I don't own that forest. I try to get people to go so they can validate what I'm saying.
Right.
They don't look at it that way. It's mine. It's mine. Okay, whatever. You know. So I started seeing all this stuff, and I said, you know what? I said, I know there's other groups out there that are trying to get out. They're trying to get together, and so I actually ran into a person named Matt Barron on Facebook,
Yeah.
and I started watching him, and I started hearing what he's out there saying. I connected with them, and next thing you know, we're friends on there, and actually ended up getting. He brought me on his podcast. I joined the P3 family because of it. Because I mean, they're awesome people.
Yeah, they are.
Everybody
I'm
that's on
joining.
there,
Yes, they
and
are.
and then I ended up meeting Brian Laverty through
Hmm.
Facebook, and then he brought me into Parapost. So I'm also in the Parapost family, and it's just because of what they're doing. And so they
Right.
really inspired me. That even my podcast has changed my perspective on a lot of
Mm.
things.
Good.
And like my podcast, I don't have drama. I bring on people, and I've turned down a lot of big names, and I've only been doing it for 4 months, and I
Hmm.
mean, it's shot out the gate.
Right.
And but I only bring people on that can either bring knowledge or
Hmm.
some kind of advice to that people can watch the podcast and learn something, or they can connect with that person.
What day is your podcast on?
I don't have a time slot right now. I'm just rogue. I come on when I come on.
Okay, that's all
you know
right. Yeah,
but usually on Thursdays. I try to do it on Thursdays or Fridays, or I just pop up. you know but
I'm gonna have to check that out. You know, but I got to get going here. It's about that time.
yeah.
Anthony, thank you again, sir,
Oh
for
yeah, thank
being
you for
on.
for having me on.
Let's keep in contact. You
Yeah.
know, I really would like that. I want to learn more about you and your group
Yeah.
in the forest. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna invite you on my podcast, then we can go 5 hours.
All right, we can do that. Just give me the date. I'll be there.
Yeah.
All right,
So just
brother.
be
You have
sure,
a
just make sure everybody check out Ray's World Podcast on Facebook. Check out the P3 Family Parapost, and you won't regret it.
yes,
And
you
go check
won't.
out Pittsburgh Paranormal Society and follow and join them too.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, brother. You have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
So that was an awesome show. I'm finally got to meet Anthony, and he had a lot of interesting things to say. I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about the forest, and I think we found a good person in order to help us understand it a little bit more. But it is running time. Time is running out, and I want to say to everybody that you have a wonderful week again. Um, Children, please go to your parents. and give them a hug and tell them that you love them and mean it when you say that. And parents, please go to your children and give them a hug and tell them that you love them and really mean it. And if you don't have no children, or if you don't have a mom and dad or whoever, find somebody that you're close to and give them a hug and um, and just tell them that you love them, because those three words, I love you, go a long way. And on that note, good night, happy hunting, see you next week. Thank you.